So Elliott Shore Parks kind of set Eagles Twitter on fire yesterday. It's not a hard thing to do, really, is it, Brian? Setting Eagles Twitter on fire.
All you have to do is put up a ranking. All you have to do is put up something that you can debate about, and Eagles Twitter will go absolutely crazy.
He had Dawkins, Howie Roseman, he had Andy Reid, and then McNabb. I mean, I think the Howie thing is what had people up in arms there. If you're going to put Howie on there, let's put the coach on there, put half of Joe Douglas's face on there. Yeah. How does your list look? Did you do, because I feel like everybody at least had a pencil and paper and they were jotting it down on their own.
Well, let's first talk about Elliott's list. I mean, you got a coach on there and you have a GM. I mean, come on. I mean, that's cool, and that's a whole separate section. They never touched the field for the Eagles. That's the point. Yes. So I'm like, listen, that's a whole different section. Don't put the coaches on the Mount Rushmore, and Andy didn't win a championship in Philadelphia, so that's a whole different thing. But you know, my Mount Rushmore is pretty simple. You start with Reggie. Obviously, you know, the minister of defense, one of the best D linemen that ever played the game. He's certainly a staple in Philadelphia. Passion, desire, all that other stuff he was able to bring to Philadelphia. You start there. Then I got to go to Doc. I mean, Doc is obviously a Hall of Famer. When you talk about the what the city brings, hard work, the grind. I want to hit you in your mouth. I want to punch you again and again and again. I want to flip you over. I want to suplex you when I tackle you. Doc said to me one time, he said, listen, I play with the passion that the fans in the stands would have if they could put on a jersey and shoulder pads and a helmet. I play with that every day. And I'm like, and when he said it, you know, you get those cold chills in your body.
Yeah,
I got that. And I'm like,
I almost just got it right now.
I was like, this may be debatable, but when you talk about guys that played in Philadelphia, you have to mention this dude, Hall of Famer, Harold Carmichael.
Yeah.
6'7". He played in a time where, you know, they wasn't throwing passes like they're throwing now. But just imagine being 6'7" and running around a bunch of guys that are 6'1", maybe. But, you know, his career, the highlights, the numbers speak for themselves. The things that he was able to do in a football field at that size were amazing. So for me, he has to be on there. I think when you talk about football, you talk about, again, passion, you talk about Philadelphia, you have to mention Concrete Charlie, Chuck Benderek. I mean, being able to play in a league at his size, I mean, he wasn't a big guy, and there weren't huge guys at that time, but he played offense and defense. Come on, man. It's just not, I mean, who's doing that, playing middle linebacker and center? Obviously, we haven't seen anyone do that in a very long time, but what he's able to do, or a long time ago, I think was special. Last but not least, and I think this one is controversial.
What's controversial about this thing is you're putting a fifth face on Mount Rushmore, so he's cheating.
I know. This is my damn list.
If you're Brian fucking Westbrook, and some people have you on that Mount Rushmore,
he could sketch another face in.
Dude, you can go just carve another face out of rock.
Exactly. This is my last one.
This is so good.
Donovan McNabb.
Yeah.
Listen, I was in Philadelphia. I was in Villanova. You know that.
Yeah.
When Donovan got drafted, I knew what that team was, the organization was all about prior to McNabb getting there. They just weren't very good. After, Buddy Ryan and those defenses and Randall and those guys, there was a lull there in Philadelphia where the team was not very good. Donovan gets drafted. Andy Reid obviously is there. And then we go on a run for 10 plus years where every single year, it wasn't about making the playoffs. It's about getting home field advantage. It's about how good this team can be every single year. And quite honestly, during that time, there just wasn't a bunch of teams that were saying every year, this is a playoff team. This is a Super Bowl caliber team. Donovan McNabb led that charge, 6 Pro Bowls during that time. Super talented, carried the football team. He's also on that list. And I got a bunch of other guys that on the miniature, the junior Mount Rushmore list, but I mean, if you start with those guys, I don't know that you can go wrong.
You can't. And that's the great thing about this exercise. I put it out there, like who should come on to discuss. And of course, I was looking for somebody to suggest somebody like Brian Westbrook joining us, but everybody shared their list. And all the lists were so different, which is cool, which means there's a lot of depth and great players. And like if you're a record holder in Philly, or if you've done something special in Philly, like you really have had to go up against a lot of great players that came before you to get those records and get that respect. So I went and I actually texted a friend to be like, where am I going to get killed on this thing? I was with you on Dawkins. I'm with you on Reggie White. And even though the Reggie White thing is interesting because a lot of people think of him as a Packer outside Philly because of the Super Bowls and that sort of thing. But my favorite part of Eagles history, not just those teams that we just talked about, but like the early 90s teams, those old throwbacks, that D-line, because I'm a D-lineman, whether it was Jerome, God rest his soul, or Mike Golick, who's a friend of the family, or if it was Clyde Simmons, who was my D-line coach, assistant D-line coach. You got a guy with 120 career sacks, and he wasn't even the guy on that D-line. That's Reggie White, one of the greatest players to ever play the game. So Reggie White, I've got Dawkins, who I used to eat breakfast with. I mean, how cool is that? You go to play for the Eagles, you got Weapon X hanging out in the lunchroom every morning. Yeah. I'm just like, so I've got those two. I've got Nick Foles because they have a statue of Nick Foles. Like I know that I played with Nick, you played with Mcnabb. McNabb's the better quarterback, dude. But there's an element of this that's like, who's the most popular? Like that's the Mount Rushmore. It's like greatness and popularity. They actually built a statue. He got to win that Super Bowl. I wish McNabb had won a Super Bowl because I think he was that good. And then last, I will go with Jason Kelsey because when you look at all pros, when you look at everything he did, and I know it's not a super heralded position that people think about a lot, but for all pros, he's been there for about a decade. He embodies everything that to me Philly was about in my time there. And you get the Mummers speech, the parade. So pretty interesting. Like our eras slanted our lists a little bit, but yeah. I can't argue with McNabb over Foles. He was the better player for longer, and Nick caught lightning in a bottle twice in Philly, really, once with the Super Bowl and once with that record-setting season.
Yeah, let me tell you guys the other guys that I have that I certainly would love to mention. Eric Allen, who I think is a Hall of Famer, cornerback. Seth, who should be a Hall of Famer.
Seth, yeah.
Linebacker. Troy Vincent, who, he can make an argument for a Hall of Fame. Great player in Philadelphia. Guys I love. Mike Quick, again, I love them. And listen, I'm not here to toot my own horn, not my thing. But when you talk about the most yards in Philadelphia Eagle history, just all-purpose yards, it is what it is.
And that's who I was talking about when I said if you get to break records. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but if you hold Eagles records, it's incredible because there's so many great players. And these guys could all make the list. That's what's amazing about this list. There's so many great players. Jerome Brown, gone too soon. People say he would have been one of the best all-time Eagles.
I tell you what, we should do an all-time Eagles video game list, players who play video games.
I used to kill people with Westbrook.
What? Out of the backfield, just a quick boop.
Hey, Brian, in college, no joke, in 06, if I wasn't at practice, you could find me and Clint when we hosted you on your visit.
About to kill each other.
And we were about to kill each other, and I was always the Eagles, and I was checking down like a motherfucker to Westbrook. So listen to the full podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. Wherever you want to get the podcast, you can get the podcast. Pretty simple. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Podcasts get pretty wild. This is real tame.